Well, good evening, everyone. I appreciate you joining. It's 7:02, and I'm going to call to order this meeting of the City of Charleston Citizens Police Advisory Council. I'd like to welcome everybody and thank all my fellow board members and members of CPD for joining. I believe we did not have anybody sign up for citizen participation, so I think the only ones on the call would be us and some of the staff. So we do that with a welcome. So Jill, if you would go through the roll call for me, please.
Sure. Councilmember Twan Fielding. I see you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was unmuting.
No worries. Councilmember Doris Grant. Councilmember Jerome Harris.
Present.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Jamie Kahn.
Present.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Sarah Mack. Councilmember Harrison McIver.
Present.
Okay. Councilmember Paul Tamburino.
Here.
Councilmember Liliana Taylor. Councilmember Imogene Thomas. And I see you listed as an attendee, Imogene, so I'm going to mark you present. And finally, Councilmember Moyo Yamaguchi.
Here.
Okay, all right, that completes the roll call.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, everybody. Let me see. So we were going to welcome, and I guess with school starting, we have our newest council member, Lily Taylor. She's a student at the College of Charleston, and she's currently filling our second student role. If you remember in our updated guidelines that were just approved by the city council, our two students no longer have to be high school students. They just are in a student status. So Lily came on as our second student representative. She did participate in the policy subcommittee, which was nice. So she probably with school starting may have some conflict. So welcome to our newest member. Like I said before, nobody signed up for any citizen participation. I did receive a note from Cajun regarding some topics of relevance that are on our agenda. And I forwarded those, so those can be part of the notes. So I think we move into the minutes. So has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes that Jill distributed? Look to see if there's any questions, comments, concerns.
Harrison.
Councilmember Harris, I think you had brought up a change in the email. So do you want to bring that up now?
Yes, it relates to action to remove let's see, to remove Eduardo Curry. And the way it's stated, I think is somewhat unclear. And what I would propose for the amendment to that section of the minutes to read that on the motion of Councilman McIver, second by Councilmember Fielding, the committee voted unanimously to amend the motion for the removal of Councilmember Eduardo Curry to reflect that Councilmember Mack seconded the motion, not Councilmember McIver. I'm moving for that change in the minutes.
Anybody want to speak to that amending of the minutes? Any objections? Seeing no objections, all in favor of the amendment to the minutes, just raise your hand or give a thumbs up. Do just any indication. Okay, perfect. Yes. And now, do I have a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
I move that
Second.
the amendments
Okay.
as amended.
Councilmember McIver is made the motion to accept the minutes as amended. Councilmember Harris has seconded the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, give a thumbs up or hands up, whichever you want to do to acknowledge it. Any objections, please raise your hand. Seeing none, the minutes are accepted as amended. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm pleased, honored, and I'll use the word thrilled just because that's my personal opinion. But to introduce our new acting chief of police for the city of Charleston Police Department, to give his first update. I know he's done plenty of these updates, but this is his first with the official title. So, Chief Walker, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Paul. Good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for having me. This has been a really tough day. Just give everyone a quick update. Pretty much tackle the first order of business is kind of talk about the status of the third-party assessment. Know a lot of questions have come up with that and the same position. Everyone I've talked to offline, both formal and informal. The city of I apologize. The city of Charleston and the police department stand fully committed to completing this assessment within the prescribed time frame, which is October 31st. So I know there's a lot of questions going back and forth as far as contracts and things like that, but that's pretty much what I wanted to come and relay to this group as far as what we stand with the audit. We're still full steam ahead. All right, so I want no questions as far as the commitment of the police department and the city as far as that assessment is concerned. Any questions on that before I press forward, Paul?
Just basically real quick, Chief, just, I know that, obviously the contract's with the city. Mm-hmm. So any contract negotiations are with the city and not the police department. Can you speak to some of the commentary we've heard and some of the feedback we've heard from the public who have the perception that the police department is responsible for any delays?
No, sir, it's not. That's no delays as far as the police department and the city is concerned. It's really, we got a contract with a university that we're handling that first and foremost through them. But like I say, it's still full steam ahead. It's on track to be completed October 31st, and that's where we're committed to finishing the product.
Perfect. Councilmember Fielding, I know you have a question.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, for recognition. My question is, and congratulations to you, Chief Walker. My question is about what you said, that we're not halted, that the work is still going on. As a community engagement liaison, I've been informed we're halted, that there have been some concerns with the contract and the ability to continue to keep on. So,
no, when you say halted, Councilman, it's pretty much to allow the lead researcher has been out of town.
Right.
Period. That's the only halt in the process. And I think it's been painted as that this whole process has been placed on hold and has ceased, is the messaging that's coming from some groups. And I'm here to say that's not the case. The doctor that's responsible for the work, and he has subcontractors out, we have been in communication with them. So, that's the extent of what really, without going into the contracts talk, that I can elaborate on it. But the police department and the city, we're full steam ahead as far as our commitment in getting a finished product.
Okay, so you're saying then that the issues that were with the city concerning the contract and the work being done have all been resolved? And so the ERA is back to working?
No, we have a meeting set up with all the parties next week.
Okay.
The question came into like a full halt. It's not. The lead professor, the lead contract, the lead person we got the contract with has been out. So, and that's the extent of it, and I think some of the subcontractors, that's what some of the discussion has came in at. with the questions as far as funding. That's about the extent I can go into talking about
Okay.
that on our end, because it's not necessarily with the police department. Or the
I just
city.
wanted to make sure that the right picture is painted. And I understand you're just coming in the job and a lot of irons in the fire to get control over. I just want to make certain, though, that when things are stated, this is recorded, that
Yep.
the accuracy is what it needs to be.
And
Because I do know the language of halt has been used. And I know that I have not been, we haven't been participating in, we've done all of the, the community engagement pieces, but putting the final piece together and reporting and getting some additional information from the police department, I believe has been a bit of a challenge. So there's some, yes, sir, unfortunately. And that's why I'm saying maybe it has already been resolved.
I'm a little confused. What was that last you say? Getting
I said
information
getting
from the
some
police
information.
department?
For some of the information needed was a bit challenging. And so I just want to make sure, if you're saying that all of the issues have been resolved to where the contract is going to be able to make the efforts of the contract will be able to make its conclusion, you said the end of October?
Yeah.
It's back on. Okay.
Let me be crystal clear, so there's no questions on where we stand as a city and a police department. The police department, as far as documentation, participation, openness for this process, there's no halt.
Okay.
There's no question about commitment. There's no question about presenting the information to everybody that needs it, that's involved in this process, to include subcontractors. So I don't want you getting one side of the story. I don't want no one being manipulated by one side or the other with this process. And I'm being very tactful as far as how I present that to you. Over 400 documentations have been presented for this process from the police department, okay? The analogy I used for this process is that we are the student presenting homework to a professor, all right? So where we think that we have got a great product and we stand by our product, that's the whole purpose of the assessment. It's always been the position of the police department and the city. The chips fall where they're made. This is not a sprint, this is a marathon. And we've always said that. So I want to be crystal clear with the messaging as far as where we stand. We have to October 31st for this product to be finished. And our expectation is that all parties involved will have completed their processes.
Okay, thank you, Chief, for explaining that to us. And Chairman Tamburino, thank you for your indulgence with the back and forth there that I was exercising. My concern, as has always been and continues to remain, the fact that we don't want this to look like a check the block exercise. We want the city of Charleston to recognize the constituents, not those in leadership positions or anything, but the constituents to recognize that not only CPAC, but that the city is taking this as a serious opportunity for improvements for the city of Charleston. When things are slowed or appear to be halted, it brings concern that all we're doing is checking a block and that members are part of a piece of this game, quote unquote game, to just appear that we're being diligent in a particular area. So Chief, thank you for explaining that. I'll be looking forward to seeing and finding out more information following this call. Thank you, Chairman Tamburino.
Thank you. Let me say this to everybody on here. We're going to have later in the, and I appreciate, and these questions are directed to Chief Walker, and these are the right time to do that. when we get to, what I would ask is when we do get to the update, we have it on our agenda to get an update. Our role for everybody on here is a two-part full. We hold the police department accountable, but they're only half of our equation as well. So we've now addressed it to the chief, and if we've got, we now want to make sure this process, as Councilmember Fielding said, is not a check the box. I would almost say that our next step is now turning to City Council, Public Safety Committee, and addressing our concerns to them in case any of these halts, contract issues, resource issues are from their side of the coin, because I want everybody to remember that it's the police department being audited. They're not the customer. And so their job is to be available, and they're held accountable to be available. And so, yes, if we hear examples where they're not, we're going to call them correct, right? And so as the different groups come to us and talk about the police department's doing this, it's beholden to us to get examples, because I love examples, to be able to say, well, on this occasion, you didn't do this, this, and this, rather than us, well, or, you're holding it up. But when we get to the update, I really want to look at, and hopefully we can get to a point where, maybe we build a narrative that we do go back to the city council and ask these questions. The public's looking at us, as CPAC, to be the public arm for them in getting this work done. And it's a two-part. So we have no problem turning around and looking at the city council and saying, okay, guys, where are you with this? So we have the full picture for the public. So, Chief, I appreciate you taking those questions, and
Absolutely.
I want to reach out to see if anybody else, because we're not done with that part. Anybody else have any questions or comments for the chief on that topic?
Yeah.
No? Okay. If you want to proceed with the rest of your update,
And
please.
really appreciate the questions, and this is the opportunity, like I say, to really get things straight so we're all on the same page and the communication is there. So no, the last thing we'll talk about, like I said, it's been a really tough couple months at the police department. Everyone is kind of familiar with that. Dealing with a lot of grief. One of the things of major concern right now is just making sure everyone is in a position mentally and physically to be able to serve this community. We kind of in a new territory, dealing with the loss of our chief. Fast forward, we've had a couple of different incidents happening at the police department since that time frame. We just lost one of our beloved sergeants of 40 years over the weekend that we're dealing with. That service is going to be Saturday for Sergeant Nick. Sergeant Nick just retired from the police department in March. So he was just getting into the groove where he was enjoying his retirement. So that's something that we're going to be dealing with over this weekend. So we just ask everyone to keep this department and these officers in your prayers. Just making sure, like I say, mentally, physically, we are at a spot where we can continue to serve and really monitoring our officers and our civilian staff. Because it's really not normal to deal with the amount of things that this agency and this city has dealt with in a relatively short time period. So that's been my primary concern. Public safety is still number one. Communicating with the community is right behind that, and making sure that all of us is on the same page. So educating our community to the back and forth of what our agency provides and does for this community. So any questions on that?
Yeah, I do. If you could give us an update on the search for a permanent police chief, whether it's you or somebody else, you can give us an update on that, as well as you were named acting chief, how has that made changes to your senior leadership? What role changes, what responsibility changes? Can you let us know, because we're usually in tune with who your leadership is.
Yeah, so the leadership, like I said, the search is still active. PERF is doing a national search. We had to have information in regarding, the candidates had to be submitted by the end of July. So like I say, it's still a very active process. Next steps will soon follow. Not sure what those are right now. probably as much as I got with the process, as far as where they are with the search. It's not going to be really forthcoming until they get a good group of selected candidates that's a possibility for the job. And they'll probably present that to the mayor and city council, then they'll set something up as far as next steps. So the leadership at the police department is still pretty much the same. We got two deputy chiefs, Dustin Thompson and Jack Weiss, that's over operations, and the other is over central investigations. We are making some adjustments as far as different roles, as far as mid-level management, that would be the lieutenants. We're still going and ironing that out based on needs of the departments, but everything is still fast forward. Nothing has stopped. It's business as usual, just a lot more communications and kind of playing chess right now as far as the pieces of the police department.
I have a question. If I may, Chief, and congratulations on your appointment. If it's appropriate to ask, have you thrown your hat in the ring?
I'd rather not disclose, but I am interested in the position. I will leave it at that, Councilman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second point, you had a role as deputy chief. Who has assumed your role that you previously held?
It's pretty much being split amongst the command staff. You see Captain Cortell is on here. So the police department's set up pretty much to operate. It don't matter who's in the position. I had procedural justice and community, which pretty much is still in line with what I'm doing now. Some of the fine details of the department has been split between DC Thompson and DC Weiss. And that's something like the budget and some other things that we do amongst the troops. But for the most part, I acted as the number 2 under Chief Reynolds. I assumed pretty much all his responsibilities to include like the budget, fleet, internal affairs, all that stuff fell under the chief originally. So I kind of was doing that even when he was here.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else have any questions or comments for Chief Walker? Hearing none, Chief, I guess you're off the hook for now, but if you would stay on the call, because I'm sure there'll be other things that come up that we'd love your opinion on.
No, and one thing, and I don't know if Jill will get to it, we are in the process. I'm real passionate about the Citizens of Academy. We are in talks with some of our local groups to kind of bring that platform to the community. One group is Cajun that we're actually looking forward to actually bringing the traffic piece. It's really trying to reach a larger audience. So that's forthcoming. We really will need everyone to kind of help be a mouthpiece for those efforts. We would like to get a great turnout, and I'll start here with soliciting to this body. We're also reaching out to the community groups, neighborhood presidents, also our houses of worship for that date, and Jill can fill us in on that date that we've selected. It's going to be in September. We're going to do what we do at the Citizens Academy. The first block will be the traffic stop portion, to include pretty much our process and procedures, protocols, expectations, and kind of conclude with the presentation that we had with the data. So I'm looking forward to it. It's really a test pilot to some of the work that's been going on at the police department for quite some time, and we're trying to reach a much larger audience so they can know what to expect if they encounter an officer at CPD.
Perfect. And I know we've sent out the communications as well. So hopefully you're getting applications. Our new members know as they're coming in. We do set the expectation with them up front. That's something that is something we all agreed to do when we signed on for this. And We've only got one new member on here. He's been to the real police academy, but I've tried to convince him that the Citizens is much more robust, and so it's a good different perspective.
Yeah, and like I said, we're proud of that. So just trying to, like I say, reach the community that can't make it for those 8 weeks. So this is a different approach. We're going to come to them.
Well, and I want to give a shout out to Councilmember Fielding, obviously our immediate past president, that other than our newest member who's only been on for one meeting, every member on this call has been to the police academy. So, and I think that's a testament to her leadership. I know she's the reason why I went. So I appreciate that. And hopefully we're keeping that going forward. All right. Anything else, Chief?
No, sir. I will be around. I'm here. Any questions that pop up? Yes, sir.
All right. We appreciate it. Okay. Next thing on our agenda is, let's move to subcommittee reports. Well, normally that would be Councilmember Grant, who's the chair of our policies and procedures subcommittee. Jill, did you or Tony want to give, I know you've seen the notes and everything and probably know it better than I do. Can you speak to what they did, or Jerry? Yeah, anybody? I mean, there was a bunch of us on the call. Anybody? I think she submitted it in writing. So unless somebody wants to speak to it, we'll accept her notes as her update for the meeting.
Paul, the only thing I'll mention is that the policy review was, I believe it was body worn camera, and the due date is going to be tomorrow. I forget what time she sent. There was some issues with her internet at home, so that's why it got extended. But that was pretty much the highlight from the meeting minutes and the upcoming events. And once we are done with that GO, we will send another GO to review here coming shortly.
Yeah, and I think we saw that one come through, that you weren't recommending any changes to it, or the department wasn't recommending any changes. So we were reviewing the policy as is for any commentary.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
What's the next GO that's up on our schedule? Do you know?
I'll have to go back and look at our schedule and just see what's next for our commanders to review first. And then I'll let you guys know next time.
Okay, perfect. Any questions for Captain Cortella on policies and procedures? All right. Okay, so the next one I want to bring up is a subcommittee that's part of our guidelines, our charter. One of the focuses of CPAC has been, and I've included on the agenda so you can read it for yourself, was our ability, and we were empowered to do a high-level review of citizen complaints against the police department. And by doing that, we can put together a group who reviews the statistics. Statistics are provided, and where warranted, through the chair, individual cases can be reviewed. And obviously they'll redact whatever they need to redact. And I think that's an important part of what we do, is we send out these surveys and things like that. And I know Councilmember Fielding and I, we used to talk about that all the time. The challenge that we always had was having enough members that were active to field, the different subcommittees. And as we're bringing new people on board, I think that's our mission, is to try to tee some of those up again. I know the communications is kind of back down, I know we want to get that started again, but I think I think we've talked about it before, that bringing the complaint review subcommittee into being would be probably something that's relevant now. Anybody have anything they want to offer about creating that type of a committee? Anything, any ideas you think of? No? You sure? Jerry, you reaching for the microphone?
Just, I think it's appropriate. The internal affairs report contains data on complaints and their disposition. And I think the committee, consistent with the chart, could begin there to review relatively number external complaints that are brought to bear. I think in 2022 there were 11, and I think that's a good starting point for the complaint committee to review and to become familiar with, well, to review the process, but then to see if there are any questions consistent with our charge to make recommendations, if any, as relates to policy or procedure changes.
Perfect. I appreciate that. And so everybody knows I spoke to Chief Walker offline because, as I put together the agenda, our job's not to play gotcha with anybody. I wanted him to know up front and, get any feedback from him as we put this together, just so, just like our opinions, because we want, we want to be able to collaborate. And he was all for it. There was no negative there. He said, absolutely. My team will work with you. We've been waiting for this. And so I want to say that I do appreciate that. So what I want to do is I did reach out, I've always asked for volunteers, and a lot of people just learn the old school, never raise your hand. And that's why I like to raise hands for other people. So I did reach out to Councilmember MacGyver, who got a little test run by working on the surveys with Jill and did an outstanding job. I have to say that I think we all appreciate, and all of us do the same thing. We all, have our style that it works. Everybody on here, it just works. And I like that. So I did reach out to him to see if he would be willing to serve. But just like with Councilmember Fielding, I believe even though the chair has the prerogative to appoint subcommittee chairs, I feel it's important that that's the decision of this body. So following in her illustrious lead, I want to put that out to the group. So me as the chair, I'm not going to nominate anybody. So I seem impartial, but do I have any nominations for the chair of the Citizen Complaint Subcommittee? Councilmember MacGyver, you can nominate yourself if you want.
So you guys are punkified. So I'll go ahead and nominate Harrison MacGyver. I don't know why we go through this. It's Harrison MacGyver nominated for the chair of the Committee on Complaints.
Thank you, Jerry. If you would turn off your audio is coming broken up. So if you turn off your video, that'll help your bandwidth. Councilmember Fielding.
Thank you. I thought it was already, I thought what you were explaining was that Councilman MacGyver was going to be in that position.
No, he's willing to serve in that position.
Oh, okay. Well, Councilman MacGyver, I certainly would not have had you to nominate yourself. I nominate you too, or I'll just, since you've already nominated yourself.
No, I didn't.
I second that.
No, I didn't, Jerry.
You didn't?
I will not nominate myself. If
Okay. Well, I nominate.
That would be a statement in itself. I would not nominate myself.
Well, I nominate Councilman MacGyver. I think he'd be an excellent subcommittee chair for that initiative.
Okay, the group. So Councilmember Harris nominated, Councilmember Fielding seconded the nomination. Are there any other nominations for the chair? Anybody else interested for themselves or want to recommend somebody else? All right, hearing none, even though we don't have anybody running against, I still want it to be a vote of this body. So all in favor of Councilmember MacGyver taking on the chair of the complaint review subcommittee, raise your hands or give the thumbs up or some indication that you're good. Okay, and we've got all the votes in. That's unanimous. Congratulations, Councilmember MacGyver. Jill will work with you on putting together how to publicize the meeting to get it scheduled. She'll send out, just like you've seen when we do the policy subcommittee and other committees. Yeah, I like the celebration from Councilmember Fielding. I like that. She'll help you put together, and as you go to build this subcommittee, remember everybody that sits on this group is eligible and encouraged to be a member of your subcommittee. So you don't have to just recruit us.
wait, let me understand this. I thought we would have volunteers now, or you would appoint volunteers now. So are you saying I need to seek volunteers to participate in the committee, on the subcommittee?
Oh, what I would say is the practice that I've seen ever since I came on CPAC is the subcommittees are open for participation. We invite all. So, you're going to see a core group develop, of your regulars, but, it's always great to have feedback from others. So I mean, it's hard to say if you have to recruit. We definitely encourage from above that everybody participate. The poll for the participation, the schedule will go out to all council members. Now, if you want to narrow it down or somebody says, I don't want to be on it, that's okay. So you can go either direction. It's your subcommittee at this point.
Okay.
But I can help you with that. I've chaired subcommittees, and even as the chair of a subcommittee, I attended everybody else's subcommittee, just because really we don't have that large of a body. And so the more people contributing to the process, the better it is, because there's nothing worse than you showing up to a Zoom call and it's you and one other person.
Right.
And that's usually going to be Jill.
Yeah.
Jill's good about showing up.
Well, we'll look forward to working in leading this subcommittee, and I know it'll be a constructive opportunity for us to learn and be a resource, as well as to give some input and feedback.
From my understanding, and I'll direct this to Chief Walker to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your police department liaison, other than Jill's helps with the facilitation, would be Captain Cretella. Chief, would you agree that's your designee?
That's absolutely correct.
Tony, you got another job, buddy.
Well, the good news is I prepared for this, and Lieutenant Bailey, who is our lieutenant over internal affairs, he will be the main point of contact for this committee, as I'm already helping out with the policy committee. But once again, we work hand in hand, so you'll see the both of us, pop up on the complaint committee as well.
Tony, if I could ask you one favor for his inaugural meeting, if you could be there to make the introductions, that'd be awesome, and give your command emphasis on the process forward. I'm sure the lieutenant can take over from there.
Absolutely, not a problem.
And Harrison, you got your first volunteer. I saw it come through the chat.
Yes, Jamie, Council Member Khan, welcome.
You got a good career.
Thank you.
I don't know you ever got any citizen complaints, did you?
Not that I'm aware of,
Yeah, there you go. You see, you got a good one there.
but maybe Harrison can check when we start.
All right, Harrison, I'll let you take from there. Anything you need from me, just reach out to me and I'll help you with any of the logistics or any of the background you need. But I do look forward to attending the first meeting.
I have a lot to learn, so I do plan to dig in.
Perfect. Any questions or comments for the new chair of the complaint review subcommittee? Awesome.
I would like to meet, talk with Captain Cretella. I haven't know if I've seen a picture, I've seen a photo. He hasn't shown his face here.
He's pretty. Oh, Tony, he's got to come on. Come on, camera, Tony. Yeah, Tony's pretty.
Can't come off camera right now, but I met you in the Citizens Academy. Myself and Lieutenant Bailey did the presentation on the Office of Internal Affairs.
Okay, yeah, I remember now. Okay.
He's got the long Beverly Hills 90210 sideburns, looking all slick and everything.
Okay.
He's a fun guy. But yeah, you two, Harrison, just send him an email and you guys can connect offline before your first meeting and just go over any logistics, so that you have, you're prepared for the first meeting.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else for Harrison? All right, well, we're going to move forward. We're actually making a good pace today. Next thing that we want to do is something that we started with the last meeting that we're going to continue going forward, is we're going to go around the table and get an update from each council member on any activities, I get it if you haven't done any, but it's kind of like peer pressure. When you got to give an update, you start thinking, what have I done? And sometimes it motivates you. Hey, I don't want to go to that meeting and say I haven't done much. So let me come up with one. So I want to go around the group and just give your update on, any CPAC activities that can include community, could include your interaction with the police department, maybe not getting a ticket, but any positive communication you've had. And also to include reaching out to your appointing authority, whether it's the mayor or a city council member, that's also CPAC activity. So I'm going to go across my computer and I'm going to go in that order. And Councilmember MacGyver, you're up first. You got to come off mute first.
As community members know, I have the chief responsibility of interacting and serving as liaison from this committee on the citizen survey. And since that time, I'll be very honest in that grandparenting and traveling quite a bit this summer, I have not been as available to participate in activities that have been sponsored by the Charleston Police Department. I have, when I've been available, attended other events that may not have been sponsored. And in fact, I did speak with Mayor Tecklenburg to impress him that I wanted to meet with him to talk about CPAC. And he gave me what process to be undertaken to facilitate that. And I do have plans of doing that. I also would like to participate in a couple of the sessions of the police academy, citizen academy, and that I understand will start sometime in September. Missed a couple of those, and in fact, because of the chief's passing, we were not able to have a session or whatever, and the graduation. I'm okay about the graduation, but I do want to get the benefit of those sessions that I missed. I have plans to do a ride along. I'm now have more time since the summer's over, and my travel schedule is, well, it will start up again, but I'll have more time. I want to do that, and appreciate to the chairman, Tara Barino, for connecting me with a person that will help me achieve that. And in fact, it's the person that he did a ride along with, I believe. So if I'm wrong, correct that. But I plan to participate in the future with and attend activities that are sponsored by the police department.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That may not sound like it, but that's very active. Chief Walker.
Just to follow up on Councilman Harris, comment, just so everyone knows, we have an upcoming Citizens Academy that will be taking place. So any dates that were missed, we can fill you in on those particular dates. It will start September 27th through November 15th. Same times will be 6:30 to 8:30 for 8 weeks. So we can send you the updated calendar for that, so we can
Okay.
make sure we get you up to speed on every facet of what we offer.
Thank you.
If you would also have your team send that to Councilmember Thomas. I know she was also in the same class, and I know she's coming off of mute, but she had indicated the same interest in making up any of those classes.
Okay.
And then just one follow-up for your team, since that you brought that subject up. I'd like Councilmember Harris and I to be invited to one of the sessions, just to be able to speak for 5-10 minutes on CPAC, our role with you, and just to encourage any of those graduates, or anybody in there that, we're always looking for volunteers on CPAC as well. And so I think that's a good group to recruit from.
Absolutely. And I'll make sure we get that to you, Councilman.
Thank you. All right, next up is Councilmember Fielding.
Okay, I'm off of mute now. Good evening again. And during this period, I did reach out to, in addition to the actions I was doing with the community engagement, I've reached out to my council member, Jason Chakrin, to see if he would include the link for doing the survey as a way. He does a newsletter. He had been doing it monthly. I think for the summer, he took a bit of a break, but I did reach out to him to see if he would include that to hopefully get us some more attendance or some more participation in that survey. And as I said, I'll report on the CPAC, on the ERA assessment items on the next item.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Khan.
Thank you. This is my second meeting, so I'm still getting my feet wet with the committee. And I took some action in between last meeting and this meeting. I attended the policy subcommittee meeting, I believe, which was last month. Participated in the survey that you all have been working on for quite some time. I met with City Councilman Ross Appel twice to discuss the committee and that I can be a resource for him and his district. Discussed what comments he hears from his constituents related to the police department. I worked with Councilman Appel to get the survey link that was generated out to his constituents through his various social media channels, which I saw some positive results from those links, and just volunteered for the complaint review committee, and I'm looking forward to helping this body any way I can.
I appreciate that. And as a testament to Councilmember Khan, I think Councilman Appel's link to the survey is the first one I saw come through from many of the city council members. It came through my news feed, and I immediately saw it, and I appreciated that because, you know, a lot of times they don't keep up with what we're doing. So that was good to see. So appreciate that enthusiasm early on, and you've obviously got his ear, which is a great thing. Okay, Councilmember Harris.
Per my assignment from the chair, I'm sure interacted in July with the KL RA team. I calculated to various networks the survey. Also communicated to the legal department regarding some of the issues around the ERA contract. Had opportunity also to chat with the chief, and also spoke with the chair of the Public Safety Committee regarding his understanding of the situation. That's all I did.
And you went to Alaska, didn't you?
Yeah, at Alaska, grandkids for 2 weeks, pneumonia, COVID, but that don't count.
But that, you know, that's a lot. You know, you guys, you set the standard for us, so I appreciate that. Councilmember Thomas, I don't know if you got your phone going. Mama Jean, can you come off mute? Are you able to? Well, I know she's active because every time I see a community event with the police department, she seems to be there. So I always see her picture, very photogenic. So if she can find her mute button, I'll come back to her. Councilmember Yamaguchi.
This summer I wasn't really able to do much, but with the survey, the soft launch and the actual launch, I asked a couple of my peers from high school to participate. I know a couple of them did, but I don't know if they wanted to, but that's basically all I did.
That's a lot. When does school start?
So I'm moving into my dorm on the 25th, and classes start on the 5th of September.
And where are you going?
I'm going to Princeton University in New Jersey, so I will soon have to resign from CPAC by the end of this month.
We're in the presence of greatness, and some of us knew you way back when your mom was dropping you off at the police academy and waiting out. That's an incredible achievement. I know your family's proud, but since you've been a member of this body, we're going to take some of the credit too. A lot of people want to claim credit when somebody gets into a school like Princeton. Councilmember Khan and I, we were only able to get into schools like the Citadel. So yeah, we've heard of Princeton. We can't even spell it. So congratulations. That's a hell of an accomplishment. And anybody who follows behind you on this committee, whether they're a student or a grown adult, have big shoes to follow. So we thank you for your time and your service with us.
Thank you.
Buy a jacket because it gets cold up in New Jersey. Real cold, but that's awesome. Let me see. All right, let me give mine real quick. So obviously I've done chair nonsense. I've met with the chief, talked with him about a lot of CPAC stuff, talked about just different, just being a public, having a public perspective on things. And, just like Councilmember Fielding had with Chief Reynolds when she was chair, that good open dialogue, I think is critical for anything that we do. He's convinced me he's going to continue that, and he knows I'll hold him to it. So some of the other things I've conducted, I did an interview with Channel 5 regarding actually the policies and procedures, CPAC's involvement with that. So a long interview, and then she decided to do the story on data. So she erased everything that I did, but she's keeping it for later, but that's fine. Anytime that we can promote the work that we do on CPAC is never a waste of time. I did another ride along, and I'm going to do it, Chief. You don't want to hear it, so you can close your ears, but I'm going to give a shout out to Officer Vincent Johnfalla. I rode with him, and he's in Team 4. He's only been a police officer in Charleston or anywhere else in the world for a year. And so to me, that's when you learn about their training, is what did they learn coming in? And he's not bringing habits from other departments or anything else. What did he learn from the Charleston Police Department? On my ride along this time, this guy, he stopped 3 people just for various things they did. Each of the 3, no insurance, expired, different things that were expired, and resulted in 3 cars getting towed away that could have hit somebody with no insurance and things like that. But they were all intelligent stops. His way of doing it was just really impressive. One of the young ladies, this was what really stood out to me, is pulled over a young lady. She was having a bad day, but we all have bad days, and she finds out that she's getting tickets. Her car, he couldn't let her drive away in the car, so the car had to be towed. She was in her early 20s. She had to end up calling her parents to come get her, and just the stress, got to her. And she looked at him and said, "Can I have a hug?" Now, a young Black female asking, a white police officer in that moment for a hug. I mean, the first thing I told him was, "Thank God your body camera was on, so it doesn't look like you were doing anything." But even he said that's the first. That was a first for him, and it was. How did he respond to it? He gave her a hug, and then she got her tickets, went off with her parents, and didn't have to escalate. And I think that's just a testament to, for me, this is not my first ride along. What I'm seeing across the department now. What can I say that happens on every stop? No, I wish it did, but that's what we strive towards. And so I want to make sure I give that recognition for a young police officer who, from his perspective and what I see, he gets it. Let's hope he maintains it. Let's hope he keeps his career going on a path that he can be a mentor for somebody else. The other thing I saw that was really interesting to me is I know we have homeless in Charleston. I mean, we all see that if we go downtown, right? But I wasn't probably as acutely aware of how, I'm in West Ashley, of the campsites they build and the drug dealings they go. We had to go to a call where a rival homeless group set fire to a homeless encampment of another group. And it was pretty bad. I mean, it was a big fire. I mean, you're talking about, drugs and everything else, but, you don't see some of these things. You don't see the gang stuff. A lot of that, unless you go right along with them. And that's really, the Citizens Police Academy, I think, is great. It's a good foundation to understand what the book is. But everyone, don't just do it once. Go make it a point of going out there. I appreciate that the police officers actually watch these meetings. I've heard feedback from several of them that I just walk up and they knew who I was. And that was surprising to me. And they said, well, we watched the recordings of CPAC. I actually, Chief, I actually said verbatim, are you really that bored? Because that was my perspective. Why would you want to sit through this? And one of the officers looked at me and said, you're talking about my job. Of course, we're interested. We want to know what the public's perception is. We want to know. And it made me really think that, our audience is more than just the public. And so we what we're doing is really important. And I think the more we interact, not just with the leadership of the police department, but with the rank and file, because they do the work. They're the people that make, a Chief Walker look good, Captain Cortella look good, even Jill look good, is they're the ones doing the day-to-day work. So those ride-alongs are not just for our education, but it's also showing our respect back to them, that we're taking an interest in what they do to see it for ourselves. And, like us, when we had to take our kids to work day, we like to show off our jobs. Well, so do they. Everybody go out and do those ride-alongs. I think that's pretty much, those are the highlights. I mean, obviously, other things I did talk to, I will say I talked to Councilmember Brady, who's my city council member. I did talk to a couple of other city council members, just expressing my concerns over different things that are happening on city council as they relate to the police department. And that was my way to weigh in with them on my own individual perspective, not as the chair, but as a member, my different perspectives. So, don't feel limited just to your council member. If you feel strongly about something, reach out to as many, all of them, because they're a group body. That's my update. I know I went long-winded, so I am going to jump into the next part, which is going to be the racial bias third-party assessment review status update. And I'm first going to ask Councilmember Harris, because he was the appointed liaison. So Councilmember Harris, if you would start that, please.
I'm told that my audio is spotty, so I'll try to be brief. My primary contact has been with Bob Kale, who reported on July 24th that they had completed all of the community meetings and were in the process of writing those up, including the Spanish session, a Spanish community session, and they had completed all of the stakeholder interviews, and they were in the process of writing that up. He also advised me at that time that the project had been put on hold based on communication with the Corporation Counsel's Office. Communication with the Corporation Counsel's Office, as Chief has indicated, there's a meeting next week with an effort to try and resolve those issues.
All right. And as I asked Councilmember Fielding to give her update, I do want to give her another prop. I forgot to say, I did attend all three of the community meetings, including the Spanish meeting. And the attendance at the Spanish only meeting was incredible. So that was really the numbers of people and the variety from where they came from. That was just an incredible turnout. And what they, from my perspective, what they got out of it and the feedback they give was really, really good to see. So Councilmember Fielding, as the community engagement, you hit a home run. We had great turnout, so I appreciate that. So if you would, with that said, would you give your update, please?
Well, thank you very much, Chairman Tamburino. And since Councilmember Harris, Vice Chairman Harris has already stated what he did, I don't think there's much more to add. I was going to ask a question regarding for next week's meeting, but now that I've heard that, I will be coordinating back with Dr. Kale to talk with him about it and make sure that he's aware that the meeting will be next week with the full expectation that things will be back up and running and be able to move to completion by October 31st. Thank you.
Councilmember Fielding, is it, since you're on their you're on their team, right? And I know you had your engagement period. Do you have any insight from that side of whether if is there anything this body can do to push along? Now, I don't want to get involved in, I wouldn't want us to get involved in contract negotiations on, why they need more money and if they didn't scope. But if you think the public's need is greater and there's a justification, is there anything that we need to do you think, from your perspective, that we as a body should be pushing in any direction to say, hey, what do we need to do, if anything?
One thing we could do as CPAC members, contact our council member and encourage them to support the completion of this initiative to ensure that we're able to meet that deadline of October 31st. As you said, we can't get involved in contractual matters, but those, I do believe that council can help as well as the mayor, of course, because the mayor has appointed members to CPAC as well. And I do believe that we do have a fiduciary responsibility with our council members to say that we're expecting them to ensure that whatever is necessary to get the issues resolved and meet the schedule. We certainly hope that that is what they will contribute their efforts to while they're doing other things as well.
All right. Any questions or comments for either Councilmember Fielding or Councilmember Harris from their perspective?
I'd like to ask, are you able to share what issues that are perhaps causing some impediment to reaching and achieving completion by October 31st? Or is that something that's not within your realm of knowledge?
It's not within my realm of knowledge. I do know there are issues that exist, and Chief Walker did corroborate that for me in his talking as well, and then hearing what Vice Chairman Harris has stated. So I do know that there are issues. I am very hopeful that I hope I'm not just naive wearing rose-colored glasses, that the meeting next week will resolve those remaining issues and get us to where we need to be. As soon as I hear something, though, I will send an email to Chairman Tamburino and Vice Chairman Harris for them to feel free to share or if you want me to send it, Chairman Tamburino, to the entire CPAC, just to share whatever I hear from the results of next week that are not business sensitive, since it's dealing with contracts as well.
Sharing that with all of them. I don't need to filter it, just send it to all of them. Okay. Councilmember McIver, what I would tell you, just from what I don't go looking for it, but what has come across, my computer and whatnot, without details, I know at one point there was a discussion and change of scope, right? So that's why I say we don't get into the contract. Due to a change in scope, I know at one point, this is public, there was a request for additional funds. That it's my understanding at the time that was requested, that was denied. So I believe that's still an ongoing discussion. I don't know where it went after that. I only know the public side of it. I know that what they were alluding to earlier, the researcher, the primary researcher has been out of the country. So that was a resource delay that I knew happened. That's the part that I know is fact. The rest of it, like I said, I made a point in communications with several members. This body's not going to get involved in contract negotiations because we weren't a body to the original contract. And so if one party's trying to renegotiate, that's their responsibility. Our job, for me, our perspective is to make sure that as a public body, we're getting this, we're making sure it's done, whether it stops at the police department, whether it stops at the city council. We're advocates for getting this done. We're not advocates for the result. We're advocates for getting the results. So that's the perspective that I have, that I know of. And I will say that I did reach out to Chief Walker when I first heard complaints, I was sent complaints directly, that the department was holding things up, and I point blank asked him, was your department, I'm not accusing him, he doesn't answer to me, but it's a very congenial conversation where I did ask the question, is it your team that's holding it up? Is there slowness in getting data? Is there, your officers, your leadership, holding off meetings, delaying meetings, doing anything that's doing that? And his response to me was, no, this is the delays that we're seeing right now are more of the resources on the project team. And then some of the negotiations they have to do related to their contract. But that's the public side that I know. That's it, and anything, and Chief Walker knows anything I discuss with him about that, he'll be the first one to say anything he tells me is open knowledge. So that's anything that he tells me can be shared. So that's perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns on that before I turn it over and let Jill give her update from the police department's perspective? Because she's the person, they got all the different leaders, but Jill's the one that's got to do the day-to-day with them. So I know she's probably got the best update from the police department perspective.
Sure, I can jump in if you and Chief Walker, I see you turned on your camera. I didn't know if you wanted to jump in and make a statement before I begin.
No, man, I'm good. Like I say, I just encourage everybody, especially everybody a part of this body. Communication is key for me, and making sure it's accurate and timely. So please feel free to call. If it's not me, one of the representatives, Captain Cortella, please call. The last thing that we want is something to fester. I want everyone to be in the know. If I don't know, you'll be the first one to know. I don't have that information, but I'll try to find it out. But I just encourage you, if you don't have my number, I will gladly share it. Please call when any questions come up, especially in the nature of what we're dealing with as far as the assessment and getting everything done. Like I said, we're fully committed to that. I always have been, and will continue to be as long as I'm in this role. So I'm committed to that.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll jump in and talk a little bit about the police department side. So I think that this, of course, as we know, is a multifaceted project. There's many, things happening at once. So I'm going to focus on the fidelity assessment, which is really the heavy lift that the police department is heavily involved in on a day-to-day basis. And I don't want to minimize this. I think that it's really important to note that there's been a tremendous amount of work that has taken place since the last time we met, and not just internally at the police department, but by all project partners. And obviously Councilmember Fielding, the work that's been done on the community engagement is admirable. And so I think that I speak for all parties when we all say that we want to see this through, because there's been a big investment in it. It's very important, and we all want to learn from it and continue to improve as an agency for the community. So with that, I'll focus on the fact that the first part, and probably the largest part of this assessment, was the fidelity review. And that's basically us sharing with the ERA team our proof, our rationales for what has been done internally to address the recommendations, to work towards implementing them. And so over the last couple of months, we've spent, all members of the CPD at various levels, from leadership on down even to sergeants, have been working in tandem to bring together a vast array of documentation to support all of the efforts of the department. And we're actually at a point, I know that Chief Walker mentioned in his introductory remarks that we have over 400 at this point references to supporting documentation for the 70 different recommendations. One of them was canceled by CNA, and one of them is, of course, the final assessment that we're working on now. So that's taken us, understandably, that's taken us time to be able to produce those documents, not only produce them, but also have engagement back and forth with the ERA team to try to give them context, to provide them with additional information about how we see these documentations supporting the implementation. We actually have a new way of organizing the documentation. We've also worked very hard on producing the administrative data that is also being supplied to the ERA team. At this point, we have no outstanding administrative data requests. Those have all been supplied to the researchers who are now working with those data to produce empirical analyses. And at this point, where we are in the process, we're very close to finishing the final exchange of documentation supporting all of the efforts on the recommendations. And I presume that following the status meeting that will occur between the researchers and city representatives on the contract, we will be able to move forward with those final interviews to make sure that everybody is clear on the documentation provided and all of the other outside information that supports the documentation and our next steps. And then I think that we will be able to consider the fidelity assessment complete. But and I have to honestly use this forum not only to thank you all for your support of this vast effort, this ongoing effort, but also internally the staff at the CPD. Everybody here has been very forthcoming, very helpful, really trying to dig deep to demonstrate and think of everything that we can provide to show all of the efforts that this department has put forth over the past 3 years to implement all the recommendations of the audit. And whatever happens, we're going to strongly consider any of the findings and do what we can to improve, because I think, as this was said earlier, this isn't a sprint, this is a marathon, and this is something that we're fully committed to.
Bill, so this is obviously a monstrous effort, right? Because it's the first time y'all are going through something this major. What policies and procedures, SOP, automations are you putting in place this time so that next time, because this is just the first time, right? This is a benchmark. This is not going to be the end of, once you produce data once, there's going to be people that are going to expect that data every time.
Yeah.
What policy are you guys creating, the automation, the policies and procedures and the guidelines for how to do this, so that the next time it comes around, if it took you 3 months this time, next time it only takes a month and a half, because you're not seeing it new the second time. And the proper thing to do is to lay out those policies and procedures. What are you guys doing for that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And certainly this, I think, has been a learning experience for all of us involved. And so we do think that the work done thus far creates a template for us to be able to reproduce the same efforts in the future if we were in the same position again. I mentioned we have a new way of organizing all of the different documentation. We have started the creation of a database that helps us better link all of the documentation that we have been able to produce with the recommendations and provide a rationale. So that's an ongoing project, but we think we have a much better way of being able to query all of the efforts that have been done than we have up to this point. And then I think your comment is especially relevant for the data analysis aspect of that. And as you know, that's my cup of tea. So one thing I'm really interested in learning from the researchers is seeing the methods that they use to produce their analyses and then doing what I can to replicate them. And often, depending on the software packages that are used by, and this is kind of I'm getting into nerd territory here, but there are ways to be able to replicate certain empirical analyses if the right information and syntax or code that was used to create the different data files do cleaning, and then basically issue commands to the analysis software to reproduce the same results. Or, this basically slice and dice the data the same way. So that's something that I'm keenly interested in, is trying to figure out if there's a way for us to be able to get the exact code used to run the analyses. And then if we can't get the exact code, to know as much about the methodology so that we can have a point of reference and do comparisons on an ongoing basis. So yeah, so I think in those two areas, we're definitely on point to have a baseline and a template and a roadmap to be able to reproduce a lot of the work that we've done thus far.
Perfect. Any questions or comments for Jill? Are you sure? They let you off easy. And Jill, I would just say, just as you're going through that as well, the other, there's various groups that are asking for data from you as well. The more of the data that's produced here can become universal data that can be shared with the different groups as they do their studies, right? So yeah, it's not just one-time use. This should be just an ongoing, as people are brought on board and the data and then, the command staff should be using your data, right? We don't just use it for audits. It becomes working information to make them better.
We're invested in trying to be a data-driven agency. And I think with the audit, the assessment of the audit will show that one of the best areas of improvement in the last 3 years is in the production and improvement of the systematic data that we collect. And certainly we're invested in using those data, not only for internal review, but also to be able to share with the public some of the outcomes that we're seeing as a result of our efforts. And so that's kind of like the next evolutionary stage of this, is to be better producers and connoisseurs and explainers of data. And we're fully committed to that.
Perfect. All right. Nobody had any questions or comments for Jill. I'm going to move on to the CPD survey update. Councilmember MacIver.
Yes, we have great news. There was an official launch through a media press release on July 31st. And it's been a very involved and protracted process, given what has happened and been visited on the police department over the last couple of months. But we finally got it launched, and all commendations go to Jill for her efforts in undertaking this project and ensuring that it moved forward. I know internally there was a lot of conversations with Captain McFadden, right? Sergeant McFadden.
Captain.
Captain.
Maybe that's a suggested promotion, but anyway, Sergeant McFadden. And it finally was launched. All of you were asked to participate in a soft launch and to contact a few people in order to get some feedback, or at least how it operated. And I did it, as well as I know a number of you may have as well. We have then asked after the launch to publicize it. And I have reached out to 3 organizations of which I'm a part. My fraternity, which is Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. I'm in the Boule, as well as in the Owls. I don't know whether that means anything to many of you, but some of you would know that. I see that Councilwoman Fielding is smiling, so she knows exactly what I'm talking about. And that's been distributed. And I look forward to you all being a mouthpiece in terms of publicizing and reaching out to your various communities. I know Council Member Fielding is a member of a sorority, and hopefully she will reach out to that large group and ask them, as well as other sororities that are in this community and other organizations. I think the faith community is another vehicle for getting input, and using your contacts with those various groups would be quite helpful. I would imagine that Cajun and NACP, ACLU, and law school perhaps, and other educational institutions would be reached out and seek to get their input. I would just turn this over to Jill. I do note, and I think the chair mentioned it, that he was, well, there was supposed to be an interview of him on Channel 5, but I think it changed to something else. But I know I was aware that that was about to happen. So, Jill, you want to supplement what I've said? And I know.
Before she does, Chief Walker, if you want to come off the camera, see, the problem that you have, Councilmember MacIver, is the minute you throw out your fraternity, I've got him jumping up and down behind the camera because I know he wants to throw his shout out. Chief Walker, have you distributed your fraternity?
A5A, he can get, we can make sure A5A gets it, but he may need to tell me how to do that.
Do it in crayon, right?
Oh, I will say this, Chief, that in the owls as well as in the Boulay, there's alphas and omegas and sigmas and others that are part of that. So anyway, I defer.
Absolutely, Councilman, and we got representation from a couple of the Divine Nine with, Councilman Torn and Lieutenant Mitchell, who's on the call here. Is also a part of Delta Sigma Theta. So whatever assistance that we can help, spread the word. Like you said, Alpha Phi Alpha, both chapters, Beta Kappa Lambda downtown and Xi Phi Lambda in Somerville, be more than willing to help in any way we can. So,
should we, to facilitate things like that, we just get that information to Jill, and she would in turn send it out. So,
okay.
Anyway, okay.
And just to properly represent, Councilmember Khan and I, we pledged our fraternity for 4 years. Right? And Captain McFadden's a member of our fraternity as well. Councilmember Fielding.
Thank you. I was raising my hand just to make sure. Jill, were you able to get the list that we used for community engagement?
Yes,
You did?
ma'am.
Because it's voluminous. It has the National Panhellenic Council chapters that are here in Charleston that was on that list. And two of those organizations that Councilman MacIver already mentioned, the Owls, was on there, and the links. So there are a number of, it's a big list.
Let me just confirm, is this the list of people that attended the kickoff meeting, or is there another list? Because I have
It's the kickoff,
Yes.
plus the other three meetings. See, we had two, we had the kickoff meeting, and then we had two community public forums, so to speak. And then we had the third one was for the Latin American community that we have present in this area.
Right. Yeah, so I can, thank you for reminding me. Yes, with the first list that you mentioned, when we released the survey, I believe it was the day after, I sent an email to everybody that was on that list. So the kickoff meeting, and I got references from the two community forums. I don't believe that I've gotten the Spanish speaking forum one. So I can definitely circle back and confirm if there were people that were on that list that we don't overlook them. But yes, I did send a direct email to everybody with the survey link. We also created, as you all know, we made sure that the survey was both in English and in Spanish. And thank you to people on this call that helped us with, reviewing the translation. We also created paper copies of the survey in both English and Spanish that we sent out to folks to let us know, if there are individuals that want to talk to us, but don't have the capabilities to get on and do the survey online, they still have a way to be able to communicate with us. So we tried to be inclusive in terms of reaching those communities, but yes, we'll definitely make sure that I circle back with the ERA team and get if there's a list from the Spanish speaking forum, because I don't recall having that one.
Okay, and is the timing going to be extended? I believe the survey is over August 24th, right?
It's the 20th at this point, and that's something that we can certainly discuss. I can provide an update. I guess I'll just jump in real quick with that. At the moment, I checked it this afternoon, and we have approximately 650 completed responses based on what the software is telling me. And in some cases, those responses there are other responses that are in the queue that are not in that 650 that are considered partial, because somebody could have done some of it and then walked away. And then eventually those come over into the queue as completed responses after a certain amount of time. I believe it's a week. And of those 650, if I was to look at people that progressed through at least half of the survey, we have 415. So we've got several hundred responses. Obviously, we didn't require everyone to answer each question. So when we get into the analysis, we'll see, you know, there may be some questions that people were more readily able to answer or more willing to answer than others, but we will perform analysis on all of them. But I think that, you know, that response, which we have several, you know, several hundred at this point, is a testament to everybody's efforts in getting the survey out. We still are interested in getting it out to more folks. I know that we would like to see more responses from residents of Team 2. We did see quite a few come from Team 4, and the other teams were, you know, kind of representative based on where we see the population living. But if anybody has contacts in Team 2, which is I believe that's south of Broad Street, so that's the lower end of the peninsula. Please, you know, help us to try to get the word out so we can generate more responses. But so far, we think it's off to a very promising start. The data have been coming through on the back end without issue. I'm getting updates every day with new responses. And so whenever we decide to close it, which of course, you know, we do have the ability to leave it open and send reminders to people to extend the date. So we'll have to consult internally on that before we decide the final closure time period. But we'll definitely, you know, see if an extension makes sense to generate more responses.
Thank you. And thanks for those demographics, because one of the organizations I'm in has 258 members. And I know I haven't seen it come through in the newsletter yet.
Oh,
so
okay.
I wanted to make sure you did use that Panhellenic Council listing as well.
And if you have any suggestions, Councilmember Fielding, on other people that I can, you know, send a reminder to or reemphasize, I'm happy to take those because it really benefits all of us. You know, I have no problem getting back on the horn and just reemphasizing for certain folks to make sure that we get it out in the time frame.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, Councilmember Harris, I know you've had your hand up.
Did?
It's been sitting up. You're waving your hand in the air. I guess.
Councilmember Harris. Yeah.
You imagine these things. You imagine things, Mr. Chair. Maybe it's tiring. That's it.
Jerry, you didn't have any questions? You just had your hands up. Hey, I'm with you. All right, Jerry. Okay, thanks, Jill. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so next one up is Jill again. You get to give your update. I know as part of the update, you were going to give us an update on the 2022 annual report and the internal affairs report. And I think Captain Cortell will probably do his. And I know this is surface on.
Yeah, and I'll take it home. I'm the back half. You guys get to hear a lot from me, so sorry about that. But yeah, so we're happy to announce that we did the 2022 Charleston Police Department annual report and the 2022 internal affairs report have been publicly produced. They're up on our website. A lot of effort went into those documents. So, and I know that they were distributed to CPAC. Also, you know, we're going. I believe that we're in discussions to present some information in a public forum potentially through the city. So we're working through that at the moment, but we will likely have more to say at the next CPAC meeting on some of the highlights of those documents. But we do encourage you to take a look at the information contained within them. They were sent to you. We do have a reference and we are, you know, grateful for the CPAC participation. There's a special section in the 2022 annual report recognizing your efforts and your contributions to the department. So definitely take a look at that. Moving on, if I may, unless there are questions.
Do you have any questions on that? All right,
okay,
go ahead, Jill.
I'll keep moving. So the other thing, and I'm glad that this was mentioned by Chief Walker, we are really excited about hosting a community meeting in the near future. The tentative date that we have scheduled at the moment is September 18th in the evening. We're still seeking out locations to present a public session on motor vehicle stop policy and procedure. So as Chief Walker indicated, we are interested in taking sort of an amended, a little bit different session of the Citizens Police Academy on the road to try to get a broader appeal to more people, so we can talk with them directly about motor vehicle stops, why we perform them, what the expectations are, and to hopefully make people a lot more comfortable with the scenario if they ever are to be stopped by the Charleston Police Department. So there will be more information that we'll make sure to disseminate to you. We would ask for your help when we have a final date, time, and location on the calendar, that you really try to help us get people there, because we'd like to make that event a success. And beyond that, I did, at the last call, we had a couple, I mentioned that we had applied for a couple of grants. One was to the U.S. Conference of Mayors and the Target Corporation. Unfortunately, we were advised that we did not win that grant. However, we were recognized as the honorable mention in the mid-sized cities category. Unfortunately, that doesn't come with any money, but at the end of this meeting, I will circulate a reference to that honors the city of Charleston for the work done on the racial bias audit and the investment in seeing through the assessment and continuing to keep the momentum going. So I'll make sure to share that with you all. We are still awaiting any word from the Bureau of Justice Assistance on our smart policing grant. Normally, those don't start until the new fiscal year of October, so I'm not surprised that we have not heard a result from that, but I'll keep you posted on our outcome when we hear about it. As also mentioned earlier today, the registration for the Fall Citizens Academy is now open. When I send the information regarding the grant honorable mention, I'll also send out the link for registration for those folks that would like to join this time. It's someone who's done it. It's extremely informative, highly valuable. So if you haven't, signed up for that, please sign up for that and encourage people in your communities to come as well, because there's a lot to learn. And I think everybody, comes out of that feeling really proud and glad that they participated. And that, I believe, that pretty much rounds out my updates, unless anyone has any questions.
Any questions for Jill? All right, well, Jill, you're giving us so much information that there's nothing to ask.
Yeah, gotta process it. But I'm always here. If people have questions afterwards, you guys, you hear from me a lot, so reach out.
We appreciate that. As far as the feedback from the grant, obviously we don't, unless they give us money, we don't care. But if they had positive things to say about the efforts with the racial bias and things like that, have you all distributed that through, who's doing now? Sergeant Gibson's doing that now? PIO?
Yeah, that went to the city. So, but we can check back in and see if there's another announcement that we can make on that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. If there's something that we can have that we can share, just another way to highlight that, we're not trying to check a box. We want to make sure more people are aware of the ongoing efforts. So I appreciate that. Next up, I know she's been patiently waiting. Lieutenant Mitchell with the community engagement update.
Good evening, everyone. I am filling in today for Captain McFadden. She's not here and she left a lot of notes. So I'm going to go through that quickly. And starting out with notable outreach, we attended the Ashleyville-Maryville block party, which was its first since pre-COVID. That went well. We helped plan and attend the Safe Summer Kickoff at the Gathering Center, which is in a Gadsden Green community, with Allison Hilton and other community partners. We participated in Greg's Grocery Packing Day event with area agencies, and also did a dedication to Chief Reynolds on that day also. Starbucks on Sam Rittenberg hosted Coffee with a Cop for us, and we engaged in multiple people who resided and visit our community. They were there and asked many questions, and we had a good time at that event. We partnered with the Charleston Municipal Golf Course again this year to bring youth to learn the game of golf, the etiquette, and learn about scholarship opportunities. And we're still doing that on Mondays, and that will end, I think this Monday is the last Monday before they go back to school. We participated with CCSD, the Hope Center, Navigation Center, North Charleston Department of Mental Health, and other nonprofit at serving the unhoused and undeserved parties in the downtown area. The River Dog hosted CPD for a National Night Out earlier this month, where we engaged with members of our community to promote citizens and police relations. Those are the outreach. These are some programs that we did between the month of June and August, which is Camp Hope. We had the 8-week youth program. We began in June. We had 3 day camps and 1 evening camp. Day camp was held by SROs, and the evening camp was held by outreach officers and professional staff. We had our finale at the end of July. That went well. It was always a success. We're looking forward to next year, Camp Hope. We participated in the Flip League Basketball League in Forest Park. A CPD played in the kickoff event and attended throughout the sessions for community engagement. We planned and held our inaugural Youth Academy in July. It was a 1-week academy in which the youth were taught about special operations, including harbor patrol, traffic and motors, safety, and impaired driving consequences. The bomb team was out there. K9 SWAT did a presentation. We also talked about internet safety. And they also did a tour at the Charleston Airport and Aviation, which they enjoyed. We plan to continue this program and tweak it as we go along. The youth were middle school ages for this program. We planned a multi-partner wellness day in July for the community, promote a healthy lifestyle with cooking demonstrations, and that was held on Hampton Park. Every week, the outreach officers pick up food from Low Country Food Bank and distributes to the community, but people were expressing that the products that they were getting, that they didn't know how to cook and prepare for a meal. So we had a cooking demonstration with Chef Renee Saunders, and we partnered with the Hope Center, Deep, South Carolina, Roper, St. Francis, 180 Place was out there, Charleston Center, Low Country Food Bank, South Carolina Department of Mental Health, CCSC, and the Fire Department. There's a company called Fleet Feet, which is in Mount Pleasant, and they sponsored a whole bunch of shoes, sneakers for the community that day. On August 5th, Community Unity kickoff with Cyrus Birch. We just had this last weekend. With his partnership with CPD and his 501c3, Roses in Concrete, with membership in the Hazelwood area, which he grew up in, and that was a success. That we had about 30 kids out there, and they had a great time. These are some non-fatal overdose outreach updates. Outreach with community partners, Wake Up Carolina, Charleston County Public Libraries began hosting Narcan training, and that was also advertised in the media. We partnered with Mount Pleasant in their National Overdose Awareness event on 8/31. We will be on 8/31. And I have a survey update, which was launched. We talked about that earlier, and that was a success. We have additional places of signage in high volume areas in the community. And we moved the signage around for different big events in the Charleston area so people will be able to see it. We also had it at National Night Out Day. And some upcoming events, we have our Back to School Bash at both community centers, Hispanic Heritage Month outreach, Fall Police Citizens Academy, I heard that talked about earlier. Cops on the Coop is coming up, Faith and Blue Weekend. We have Halloween Howl, and we're moving into our holiday events. And that's all I have. Are there any questions for me?
I do want to point out that it's part of community outreach, but if you haven't seen already, there's been a lot of publicity lately about our mounted patrol. It came back probably a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, but kind of low key, just getting them introduced. what I've seen in the media a lot, two officers went up north with the horses to train on the two mounted, police horses, which is pretty neat. And it gives me an opportunity to give a shout out to one of my Citadel classmates, an old guy, went up for the training, and he's actually he's the police officer that rides the horse Holmes. There's Holmes and Watson, and so you've got an old former Chicago cop riding a horse in Charleston. So I don't know if that's safer to have him up there or in a car, but I think that's pretty neat. We've got those back, so that's a neat outreach. What questions do you guys have for Lieutenant Mitchell? Other than, that's an amazing list. Lieutenant Mitchell, I would say that I appreciate that you and Captain McFadden do make it a point of keeping us up to date with all the community events that, we're welcome to participate and we're encouraged to participate. So I appreciate you all doing that, because I do like to go to those as I can. So that's really wonderful. Anybody else? No, everybody's ready. All right. One thing that I don't have on the agenda, but I do need to bring this up. Steve, you're not going to dodge this one, and I'll let you go, but can you give us an update on the vacancies that we still have pending, please? I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 8 vacancies, and that's not counting, MOU going off to Princeton soon. So that's going to bring our total to 9 vacancies. Can you give us an update?
So I got nominations from Councilmember Shealy and Councilmember Bowden that were placed on city council members' desks in the July meeting, and those are up for approval in at August 15th meeting, which is next Tuesday. And the other council members I have not heard from, so we'll need to follow up with them.
Yeah, you might want to remind them that the mayor gets their picks if they don't pick theirs, right? That's our new change.
That is true.
And then I think Councilmember Harris and I are up for reappointment at this meeting.
Yeah, but the reappointments, since we changed the guidelines to continue that on, for some reason the reappointments aren't on there, but they had been placed on the council members' desks in July, but they didn't make it onto this agenda. I was out of town, so I'll follow up on that. I think they'll be up on the September meeting.
Okay.
But you all are safe in your positions because we changed the guidelines to basically say you stay in there. So.
Perfect. All right. Any questions for Steve on any of our vacancies, or if you know of anybody that wants to serve? The council members get their first choice, obviously, but the way our new guidelines work, if they don't submit a nomination within 30 days of the vacancy, and obviously they're giving them grace period from when the guidelines changed, those all revert over to the mayor, so they can be at large appointments. So if you know of people that want to serve, if they were in Citizens Police Academy, anybody that that's interested, we just need a good cross-reference of people that want to be active. I will say that I really appreciate, as Steve comes along, nominees or the different council members do, they've given me the opportunity to talk to them in advance. I want to set the expectation for anybody joining us that this is not an inactive task, just something to throw on your community resume. If you don't want to work, stay away, because we really, we've been through that. We want people that are willing to participate. It's not a lot of work. So when we do ask you to help out on a subcommittee or even in attending, a random event, not all of them, but, you all are the example of people that do participate. And so anybody coming on board, I like to set that expectation up front. We did have one member drop because he moved out of the city of Charleston, and so unfortunately he had to resign. I think he was hoping that I think he was looking for a job in Charleston, and so that would qualify him back to being able to come on board if that happened. But that's all I've got. Any members have anything they want to bring up, general or otherwise? before we adjourn? No, everybody's ready to go. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Jill, you can't make that motion. I see your excited look on your face. Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Fielding to adjourn. Do I have a second? Councilmember Collins seconds. With that said, I adjourn this meeting at 8:47 p.m. Thank you all very much for your active participation. Have a great night, and I'll talk to y'all soon.